Morning and welcome to the Jennifer O'Brien Show. I'm your host, Jennifer O'Brien. I'm super excited. I have two very funny and talented ladies with me this morning, and they are currently the host of a very cool podcast called Laugh Support. And I had the honor of being on their show yesterday, which I think is going to air in a few weeks. So anyway, I'm so grateful to have both of these ladies. They're very funny, and I always enjoy our talks and our time together. And I'm going to go ahead and just bring them up without further ado. I'll start with June. This is June Bug Colson. And June, welcome to the Jennifer O'Brien Show. Hello.
My goodness. Jennifer, I'm here. We're here. We're all here. It's going to be a party. I'm so excited.
Okay. And then let's go ahead and bring up Michele VanDusen.
Right.
What up?
Good morning, ladies. I'm going to get in the middle of you two because Michele just told me how to do that. Woo, I'm in the middle. Hello. Laugh support sandwich. Here we are. So good morning. Thanks for coming on and agreeing to be on the show. Michele, I have to start off. I'm loving that mask once again.
Yeah, I found it at the dollar store. It was in like the 50 cent off bin. And I'm like, I've got to get that because I heard that this show like on the internet is like really, really funny.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm a huge fan.
Well, you found in that dollar bin at the dollar store. That's
yeah.
I love how there's a dollar bin at the dollar store.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Okay, so when I say dollar store, dollar bin, it's really I just got it out of my junk drawer.
Okay.
Because like I bought this like months ago when the show was like at its peak, and then it's just kind of tapered off a little bit. But I'm hoping that if I represent, it'll like come back.
It'll come back
because it was such a great show. I'm waiting.
You're waiting for the Real Housewives of the Quarantine to come back. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So I appreciate the support.
I look like a robber.
You do. You look like you're about to rob something. And June, what is going on with you this morning? I got a little glimpse of a makeup tutorial before we came on.
Yeah, speaking of dollar store, so this makeup, all brought to you by the Dollar Market for sure. So I was showing Jennifer all of my super duper makeup tips. So I don't have any blush color that I like, but the blush I do like, I like it for my eyes, and so I put the blush on my eyes, and I put my lipstick on my cheeks, and these are just penciled in, these eyebrows.
Wow.
And my hair brought to you by the 50% off bin at the dollar store. Yes, nice and easy. I can usually get it for $4 a bottle. So
how about your nails?
And my nails, this is new. Do you see these? So last night I was at Zany's and my friend met me there, and we watched a really good comedy show. It was to benefit our friend Bone Hampton, who is in the hospital and is very sick right now. And so some people came out and they did a comedy show for him last night. And my friend Meredith was like, "Oh my gosh, June, I've never seen your nails looking so good. Look at these. I'm going to hold them back. I'm going to hold them." And I was like, "They're press-ons." And then one went, boom. So I'm not so good with the press-ons. But that's okay. That's all right. They look good for a minute. I felt pretty for a minute. I could be a hand model.
You could be a hand model. What's funny though, as a comedian, do you find that when you're in situations, just funny things happen, you're like, and that's why I'm a comedian?
Oh my gosh.
Something, right? And a nail flies off. It's like, I can't, you're just like, I have to be a comedian. My life is just too crazy. Rhonda Corey says, I'm loving this trio.
Listen. Okay. So sometimes
we love Rhonda.
Yeah. Rhonda's pretty awesome. So sometimes though, comedians, I say we, but I mean me, I don't filter like the funny, but sometimes it just comes in my head.
Filter anything.
No, kind of like when this weekend when my husband and I were on a hike in the mountains, and I had just told him, I was like, Jason, get your hands out of your pockets, because it was a 2,200 foot, like basically drop. We were going down all the way down the mountain. It was rugged. There were trees, whatever. Hands in his pockets. And I say, babe, you got to take your hands out of your pockets. If you trip, you're going to crack your head on a rock. And he said, my keys and my wallet's in my pockets. And I said, well, like you holding them in? I don't understand. And he goes, no.
How tight are those pants?
I know. I said, I'll put them in my backpack because, I told him, I was like, I'll put them in my backpack.
Right.
And he said, he's like, no, I'm just saying, if you can't carry me down the mountain, just take my keys, take my wallet, leave me for dead. Jen, oh my gosh. 10 seconds later.
No drama in that comment.
10 seconds later, he trips and he falls.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, see what I was saying?
Yes, girl. You told him.
He turned around, Jennifer, like he was going to flip me off, but his middle finger was facing west.
Oh, see, the Lord's like, see?
Yes. Okay. It was completely like out of socket at the knuckle. It was just laying sideways. And he goes, let's go. And I was like, what? I thought I was supposed to leave you for dead.
So was his hands in or out of his pockets when he fell?
His hands were out of his pocket.
Okay,
then he blamed me.
So
he blamed me.
I would blame you too, because he was doing just fine.
No, because had he not had his hands out of his pocket, rather than a finger being broke, it would have been his skull. So you're welcome, Mr. Colson. I actually saved his life. And yes, he could. That's right, Davey. He can flip people off and surround. And yeah, so then, but he wasn't in pain, which was a good thing because we had 2.5 hours. This was like a black diamond trail. And we had 2.5 hours that we still had to hike down the mountain to get to our car. And I said, are you hurting? And he goes, no, it's actually numb right now. And I'm like, well, don't do anything till we get to the car. And as we're hiking, because he wasn't hurting, I was like, is it too soon to ask if I can use this as material? He's like, shut up and keep hiking. So sometimes, yes, we see the humor in the situation, but I don't always keep it to myself. And sometimes I should, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, I want to know 2 things. One, did your fingernails pop off during that time frame? And did you offer him like, here's a new fingernail? No? Okay.
No, they stayed on, but this was a
callback in your set with the fingernail from last night, and maybe we're writing something's happening here. Got your pen and paper and write it down. Okay, really quick, I gotta catch up. Dennis says hello, Dennis. Dave did say hey y'all, and he did say ew when it came to your husband's finger. And you have to say he said you can flip. He can flip people off and surround. So,
well, we were so professional. This was Black Diamond, right? We went to the mountains on our very first anniversary 25 years ago, and we walked on just little level paths. We went to a place called June Wank Falls because it had my name in it. And we took beautiful pictures, and it was an easy hike. 25 years later, when he has arthritis and I have bad knees, we're like, let's do the Black Diamond, right? I had like a little sparkly backpack that was camouflaged and had stars on it. Other people had like hiking boots and they had the trekking poles because
they were drinking.
This was real stuff. Yes. Yeah. They had all of that going on. And, I don't know how one of us got injured on that hike. It just seemed like
it's almost like you knew. It's almost like you were like telling him, like you knew.
Yeah.
You kind of gave him that warning. And listen, you kind of hate to say it, but it's like, well, told you so. I would have been struggling the whole time. In fact, I probably wouldn't have struggled too much because I would have just said it.
No.
But that's just
I would have been out of breath. I would have been able to say it.
Michelle wouldn't have gone in the first place. Michelle, tell her about your pictures of you and Ross on your vacation. It is the funniest thing because she's in one location and he's in a whole different location.
Wow.
Most of our pictures I have of him way up on top of the mountain. I'm like, I'll stay here. You go ahead. Really? And he just books it up. But what's really funny is the GoPro, he was wearing a GoPro.
Yep.
And so the videos, every single video has this, he's trying to go so fast.
Oh, that's
and so he can't breathe. But he was like, I'm making it to the top. So, and then a few weeks after we got back, he goes with our boys. The boys are going on this hiking, camping trip with their dad. And they get to some mountain. They're going to go climb like a 14, whatever, just something high in Colorado. And he left like one of them. He's like, yeah, I'm going to keep going. Good luck. And my other boy's like, I'll stay with you. And the other one's like, oh, well, I'll go with you, Dad. So they split as to who's what, going where. And as he's going up, he's like, are you coming? Are you coming? So, and again, those videos, because he's trying to climb. It's just so
Jennifer, but comedy goes everywhere with Michele. Like she made people at the bottom of the mountain listen to her do comedy. She was like, hey, everybody who can't climb the mountain, see my husband up there? What? We got time before he gets down here. Y'all want to hear a few jokes? And she did comedy.
Everywhere we went.
That's how horror movies start. Right, Dave. That is how they start.
Now, talk about comedy and fingernails. I want to get to this. I really want to share this story because it just cracks me up every time. I was sitting in church and it was Communion Sunday. So we were going to have communion. And I looked, how people do weird things during announcements. Some people get on their phone and start scrolling, some write notes, and other people apparently like to clip their fingernails. So now, and so during communion, I'm looking at the what's supposed to be the blood of Jesus. Gross. And I'm looking in there, I'm thinking, is that a fingernail? Do I have the actual body of Christ in my cup right now? I'm looking around thinking, I am really blessed here. Like
if God are the body, that song, there it is. They're the body. It was the
Somebody why aren't your nails back? Click their nails. And
it just kind of
yep.
Oh,
yeah, right
Lord.
in my cup. So I mean, what would Jesus do, right? No, it was just the one. And it really choked me up. I'm just saying. It really choked me up.
You think like when he was doing it just it flew?
That is yes.
How do you know it was a fingernail?
Oh, because it's thin. It was thinner. Toenails usually are thicker. So it was a thin.
I don't know.
That's a thing. Yeah.
But did you partake?
What happened?
Well, yeah, I said it choked me up. Just
missed it. I missed it. It's too early. I'm still working on my coffee.
Early.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just letting you know, our church
real life
really quickly after that started going to the sealed things, the prepackaged.
Okay, we used to be the sealed stuff every Sunday, and I'm like over it. Like when we first started, I felt like those cups had fermented. Like I'm like I'm pretty sure this is turned to wine.
Poison. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's kind of just I'm not a big fan of those, but we are in a global pandemic. We have another question from Dave. He says it wasn't the color of Fritos, so it had to be a fingernail. Wow, what a detective Dave is. I mean, Dave. My gosh.
No, Dave, so no.
I know that you both are stand-up comedians, okay? But you also both have joined forces and you now have a podcast called Laugh Support. So I would love for you all just to share a little bit about this podcast, how it started, how's it evolved, just whichever one of you want to take it and go with it, go for it.
Go get him, Michele.
Does most of the talking, so go ahead, June.
No, that's why I'm telling you to go because I do most of the talking. So
why don't you lead us, and June will pop in, I'm sure, at some point.
So all right, so we were minding our own business, enjoying this Hot Breath Network. Yes, it was a Sunday morning, and in our messages popped up a little, "Hey, June and Michele, have you thought about doing a podcast?" And and it came from Joel Byers.
Okay.
And which was an interesting concept, that he just, and we're like, what's a podcast? How would we do one? And so we just started bantering back and forth. He goes, this is the podcast. I'm like, oh, he goes, no pressure, but think about it. So we kind of decided there and then we'd give it a whirl.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were getting in for. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into making a podcast.
Yeah,
like a lot. But we did it. We're doing it.
That's right. You're making it happen.
Yeah.
You make it sound so fun, Michele. Like everybody's gonna stop.
Everybody's going to jump right out now and start a podcast with
I
that.
think so. And
really
that's not happening.
Talking. Yeah, it's just us talking, and now we're getting guests, and it's trying to organize getting people on the same schedule at the same time, and then making sure everybody has the right Wi-Fi and the right, and so like that kind of the technical stuff is really hard, but the talking, we've got that down. We're really good at it.
You're professionals. You're professionals.
Yes,
so, June, tell us about it's called Laugh Support.
Yes.
And I had the honor of being on yesterday.
Yes.
And you guys really kind of drive home this whole concept of supporting each other in the comedy world. So June, tell us a little bit about how you guys came up with that idea.
Yeah. So when Joel mentioned that to us, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. It was something Michele and I just didn't have any knowledge at all about. But I love the idea of my best friend in comedy, being able to do something with her on a weekly basis.
So she picked me.
Right. And so that, so Rhonda Corey was busy and I was like, dang it, can't be with Rhonda. So Michele, what are you doing? But no, I told Michele, I said, if we do this, I know it's going to take our time and it's going to be difficult. I want it to be something that we're both passionate about and not just a let's talk about comedy podcast, because there's a lot of podcasts where people are, how long you been doing comedy? When did you know you were funny? And those are all great questions. People want to know those answers.
Like this
and no, but you dive into, to people's stories, and it's really
go a little deeper.
Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. But I said, I don't want to ask the same question.
Right.
That's being asked on other podcasts. People can go and find that somewhere else. And so we just kind of prayed about it. And then I said, our relationship started supportive. That person who was there for you when you first started comedy. And Michele was that person for me.
No,
and I
don't
said,
do that.
Yes. So she would tell me basically, don't do that. No, June, don't do that. No. Why are you doing that? Don't do that.
Yeah.
But truly she was there before I went on stage for the very first time. She stayed up, her and Dina O'Hare stayed up with me till almost 1 o'clock in the morning in Nashville, Tennessee, to help me edit. Like, I was like, okay, you got to do a minute and a half or 2 minutes to be critiqued. And I probably had 45 minutes on paper and they were like, no, okay, you can't do all that. And so but basically what they did was they helped me edit and they gave me confidence to be able to get up on the stage the next day for the very first time. So, so then I, the play on words, I was like, you were my life support that day. And then I'm like, she was my laugh support. Laugh support. So that's what we do. We reach out to comedians, and rather than, ask some technical comedy questions, we just kind of ask who was there for you. And sometimes the answer is nobody, which is a real path for a lot of comedians. And so that's been, it's almost been some people have been able to thank someone with comedian Fifi. Our new episode's out today. I don't want to give away too much, but literally as we were talking to her, one of the people who was there for her from the beginning had just passed away a few weeks ago. And so it was a moment where she got to kind of reflect on that person and what they had done for her. So sometimes it's a spouse, sometimes it's a club owner, sometimes it's a teacher in comedy. But that's been really fun because it also tells you a unique little glimpse at their path. And it's something that I think Michele and I are both very, very passionate about.
I go ahead, Michele.
I was just going to say, one of the questions that we failed to ask you yesterday that I really kind of want to get to today, if we can.
Whoa, twist.
Yep. And then they'll have to listen to the podcast in a few weeks to hear what this was about or where did we miss it. You said that you were a single mom when you started. And so I wanted to know who helped you with the kid, during those timeframes. Did you just pay a babysitter? Did you just,
I just left her in the car with the car running. What?
Put her on your back.
Just gave her a sippy. She was fine. No, that was, I was thinking about that question today. I was like, it was almost a blessing. I at the time it felt kind of like, I didn't think too much of it at the time. I was just a single mom. But I feel like in some ways it was a protection because I didn't hang out too much with everybody afterwards. I kind of came in, did my set. Usually you'd hang out at least till the end of the show, get paid, and then leave. So I pretty much, and then I would, chat with the other comedians during, or right before, whenever, but there wasn't a lot of hanging out because I had to get back home to a babysitter. I had to consider that I was kind of just getting out to do what I needed to do and get back home. So, I have a lot of, there's, roommates, helped me, at the time. My mom would help me. Although when my mom was alive, she passed away several years ago. She would come to most of my shows. Anytime I had a show, she was pretty much there. And my sister, they were pretty much there. And I failed to mention my sister would sit there when I first started stand up. I think I screamed my whole set. Like I yelled. And she would just sit there and just act like the microphone she had the microphone and she'd like pull it way back, like pull it back. And then I learned to pull the microphone away because I couldn't contain the energy. The energy was so like intense, but I could pull the microphone like, 10 feet away, or not feet away, inches. Okay, that makes more sense.
You were screaming.
It was really long.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really loud. I remember one time some guy's like, it was an agent kind of trying to reach out to me. He's like, okay, are you on drugs? Like, what's wrong? Like, what is wrong with you, kind of thing? And I'm like, no, this is pure anxiety. Trust me. That's what you're witnessing. It's just channeled through comedy for just a moment.
Do you want some drugs?
Oh. Yeah.
Are you on drugs now? So, no. Anyway, I just remember thinking like, oh gosh, is it that bad? But it was good. It was just energy. It was energy. So yes, long answer to that question. But I loved your podcast because it asked some really great questions that I don't think a lot of comedians get to really think about because you're just doing it. You're just getting out there. And I know June has an interesting story. Like she's just one day, all of a sudden she's like, God's like, go do stand-up, just boom, out of nowhere. I know that about June's story. Michelle, I don't know how. I kind of know. I think you saw like a contest or something. You're like, I'm just going to do it. Like real quick, I'd love to hear briefly. Y'all just kind of tell how you kind of what made you just say, I'm going to do stand-up. I'm going to go do comedy. What was that?
Real quickly. It's, a 40-year story in the making. It was one of those things. I was home. I had my 4 kids and I'm looking at them all. And on the show, it was like the Rosie O'Donnell show I was watching.
Oh, I remember that show.
And it was switching over to Carolyn Ray. And when Carolyn Ray was taking over, they did a little ad like, hey, do you have talent? Can you tell a joke? Can you dance? Can you sing? Kind of a thing. And I was like, well, I'm looking at my kids. I'm like, I used to do this, used to do that, used to do this. I have no talent anymore. And I was feeling really bad. Yeah, I was feeling really bad. And so then I thought, well, I know like 4 jokes, maybe 5. And what they was my sister would call me up and harass me on the phone. She said she was telling me a joke, but she was harassing me because I was homeschooling a couple of them. Plus I had her kids. So I had 5 boys basically at the house all the time. And all under the age of 6. It was like 5 and under, 6 and under. Yeah. Like it was a lot of littles. Mm-hmm. And she'd call me up. She's like, who do you call if they get sick? Ha ha ha, click. Like, what uniform are you wearing today? Ha ha ha, click. Like this is how she would insult me. And so I just kind of took those and thought, one and done. I'm gonna live with this, no regrets. So we drove up. We were living in Chicago. We drove up to Wisconsin to go do this. I'm gonna tell some jokes, and it was crazy because Carolyn Ray was sitting there, and and there's like 4 of us left. The guy in front of me, and then the others. Okay, Carolyn has to go, so we're gonna videotape the rest of you. We're like, there's 4 of us. Are you wait another 5 minutes? So told a few jokes to the camera, and that was it, one and done, I thought. And then we I don't know, several months later, we moved to Oklahoma,
Yep.
And Marla, we love you too. And
Hey, Marla.
I heard something on the radio again about, hey, you got talent. Could you do this? And then I'm like, I'm going to go to this stupid on open call at the mall, which is just, dumb stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And I went and I told my 5 jokes to the lady behind and she's like, you're not ready for Hollywood. I'm like, I know that. She's, but I'm going to give you a call back anyway. I'm like, okay. Go to the callback, 100 people. And as people did their little acts, she would call them over, whisper, blah, blah, blah. Like giving papers, not giving papers. Some were happy, some were sad. I do my thing, waiting for the come over. And she goes, I told Michele yesterday. And she's telling everybody now. She's not ready.
Do it.
But I want to see what she could do in a year. And I thought, challenge accepted. And so I started going to the conference after that and just started doing it. So
that's exciting. I love how I told Michele she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
She did.
I feel like she was smoking a cigarette.
Like a pencil to put in my mouth and be like, okay, let me tell you about it. And like a long ash.
She had to have a glass of like a martini too, though. Just like, okay.
But that was enough that it gave. Listen, that was encouraging because second time ever to perform, to have someone to say she's not ready, but she didn't like say, hey, listen, don't quit your day job.
Right.
Yeah. She just said you weren't ready. So it was like, okay, well, I got something. I can work with that.
Yeah.
June, tell us your story. I love June. I love June's story. She's just, God's just like, hey.
Well, this is how my brain works, though. This is comedian brains. Marlo put, there's my peeps. And then my brain went, wonder if there's Halloween peeps. Are there little like vampires? If they do? They do have them? Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm going to have to look for Halloween peeps. But okay. So anyway, that has nothing to do with my story, but that's how the comedian brain works. So, so I walked in church one morning and I'm Baptist. So I have a pew, my very own pew. We all do. And I was sitting down in my pew. And okay, here's how my brain goes. When I say pew, I think pew, 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 pew. So I was sitting in my little pew, pew, pew. And nothing was happening. Like nothing, we hadn't started church at all. And I was putting my Bible in the back of the pew and situating my purse and whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there kind of quiet, waiting for things to start. And literally, I physically felt almost like an electric feeling over me. The person who has in his own pew. That's right. That's not an original joke. Dave's not ashamed to use someone else's joke. But
I like it.
So I literally I just heard the Holy Spirit say, I want you to write. And that was it. That's all that was said to me. Now my whole life I've had very casual conversations with Christ. In a way that truly like a friendship conversation. And he's always communicated with me in a way that I can process. I tell people he doesn't speak Japanese or Chinese to me. He speaks in a sarcastic and humorous tone when he puts a point across to me. And so I was always used to that kind of back and forth with him, but this was out of nowhere with nothing happening. And I remember being so physically shook that I touched my face and I had tears.
Wow.
And I'm not somebody who I don't cry at funerals. You know what I mean? I'm like, what?
I laugh at them, but
what? Yeah, typically. Yes. And so, I was just physically shaken to the point where I got up and I walked out like to the back of the church and church started. And at the end of the service, my husband's like, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. So then when we got home, I told him, I was like, I literally heard the Holy Spirit tell me to write. And he's like, well, okay, write, because he's a man. He's like, this ain't that complicated, right? I'm like, what? What am I supposed to write? So for almost 2 years after that, I literally, every time I talked to God, I was like, what is it? What is it? What do you want me to write? And I was asking for direction, I was like, direction. And God didn't give me direction until I made a connection. That's what he wanted first, And so the more connected that, there's Jerry. the more connected that I got with God and the more serious I got about my relationship, the more he started revealing little pieces along the way. So I, about 2 years later, I was driving down Cumberland Trace Road. It's this stretch of road by my house that it's like that spot that I really talk to God. You know, it's just this kind of long, quiet spot. And as I'm driving, the Holy Spirit's like, it's comedy, June. It's always been comedy. You know, that's what it is. And so I'm like, comedy, like a stand-up comedian, that can't be right. Like, that's not right. Right. You know, like this, no, you know, because I think I was 40. I may have just turned 40 at the time. And I'm like, gosh, I'm 40 years old. I'm not starting. Are you serious? And I'm like, Lord, I know my mom always said, don't ask for a sign. But I was like, I'm going to need a little something. Like, show me something that lets me know you're serious about this.
Yeah.
Then I get to the red light at the end of my road, turns green. I look both ways, take a left. And as I do, a diesel truck's brakes went out and came flying past me and nearly clipped the front of my car. And I was like, okay, no more signs. No more signs. Like, okay, I get it. But then I was like, God, if you would have wiped me out, like nobody would have known this amazing comedian that's inside me. Like, why would you have done that? But still, even after that, I was scared to death to tell people. I thought people were thinking I was crazy. I was afraid to tell my husband because, you know, he just retired as fire chief, but like he has a job that everything has to be in order and make sense. And if not, people die, you know? And so he's very organized and well thought out. And I'm coming to him with this crazy, like, Jesus told me to be funny, baby. Let's do it.
And then this diesel truck almost hit me.
Yes. Yeah. But really after that, and I tell people, you know, like, one, the reason why I knew it was God is because it wasn't my idea. And it was so far out of my comfort zone. And it was something I could only accomplish if he was the one who put this on me. Right. Yeah. And immediately he started putting people in place. I went to a CCA conference, a Christian Comedy Association conference. I wanted to just kind of be quiet, sit in the back, not say anything, be like, okay, God, I was, you know, obedient. I went to this thing and then go home and act like it never happened. But God just at that conference started putting, you know, some people in my life right away. Then I went to a conference with you, Jennifer, got connected with Marlo and Rhonda Corey and Gail Cooper and Lisa Mills and Kay Dodd, all of these women, just what was written on the side of the truck.
I love how Michelle is commenting while she's on the show.
She's such a multitasker. I don't know, Michelle, what was written on the side of the truck?
Well, you said you're looking for a sign and your sign was death. I mean, it's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So
I don't know. Now I'll have to think about that. That would be good. Write it down. You should write that down and make it a bit.
Work it into a bit with a fingernail.
But literally that's what, but I was even afraid to go around these Christians. Yeah. I was afraid to go around these Christians and tell Christians that, you know, because I mean, there was really accomplished people at this conference. And I was just this random human being that was telling them, you know, because they're like, how long you been doing comedy? And I'm like, well, it takes 60 minutes on I-65 to get from my house to this church. So 60 minutes I've been doing comedy. I had no jokes. I had nothing. And kind of like Michelle in her situation,
no joke.
Well, no, really, like
no joke.
Yeah, kind of like to this day, Michelle just sticks to that policy. It's crazy, but it works, you know. No, so you had the woman kind of set a time frame because a lot of comedians, our brains do bounce around 1,000 miles an hour, and we have a hard time just honing in and focusing. But when you have when you have a date and a time that's solid that you have to have something done, we work under that pressure and we'll get it done. Otherwise, it can just be thoughts that are, you know, out there in the universe. So Danny Simmons, and Ronnie Wyman sat at my lunch table, and they, you know, they're people who've been doing comedy a long time. And one of them Danny said to me, this time next year, you have to come back with jokes and come on stage. You have to do it. And so it was that kind of like Michelle. I was like, okay, this time next year, I'm going to do it. I'm going on. I'm going to do that. after I did, like, he had forgot me completely. Danny had, like, he was like,
you changed
whatever.
my life, Danny. And who are you?
I'm telling you, after I did it, you know, that like high, that like, oh my gosh, the adrenaline was pumping. I did it. Timmy Boyle was in the room, and he was crazy and hilarious. He was following me around going, I heard you're supposed to get on stage this year. What if I'm an angel from God sent to make sure that you do that? And then when you do, I'll disappear, you know? And I remember he was in the room, and there was just so many people. And so Danny was in a conference room next door. And so after I walked out, I ran over and I was like, Danny, I did it. And he's like, okay, who is this crazy woman that's talking to me right now? I've never seen such a comfortable look. And I was like, oh, that just deflated my excitement. So I just kind of walked away like a moron there. But no, he was, you know, he was super kind and supportive, but it was just like someone saying, I dare you, you know?
Yeah. It's what you need. You grabbed on to what Danny said, and whether Danny remembered what he said or you, it didn't matter. God used Danny and got you there the following year and got you on stage. So awesome. Kudos. And what a great supportive place to kind of, I guess they say, cut your teeth in comedy and just kind of be able to take a chance and say, okay, I'm going to step out and do this.
Yeah.
And I think now I've seen you perform multiple times, and I think we would be missing out on Junebug if you had just ignored God, if you just ignored that. And we're like, no, there's no way. It's like, you've blessed so many people. And I know that you share, you have the podcast. I know you go live and you do other things, and just, you're out just letting your light shine, and God uses all that, you know, and that's one thing I love about what we do. We're more than, there's more than just funny. And I think I learned that through CCA, the Christian Comedy Association. Like, we can, not only can we be funny, but we have other things we can offer. You know, there's other moments that we can capitalize on during shows or afterwards, and connecting with people, and, you know, letting our stories connect with people. So I can't imagine this comedy world without you. Dave says he'll have to catch the replay. He loves the three of you. Y'all are awesome. You, and then Michele VanDusen, who's also on the show right now, is said bye, Dave. So.
But do you notice her spelling of her name right there? It's one L. And then do you notice the spelling of how you did it with two L's? I just want you to know, when I became a Christian, it scared the L out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So just one L now. Just one L.
That if you don't do you open with that? Like, that's a good one.
Only when people misspell my name. And I only use it because Shonda told me that years ago. She goes, I always wanted my name to be Michelle so I could say that joke.
Yes.
So that's like, is that an actual joke? That's not like a stock joke? Like, people say it all the time?
I don't know if it's a stock joke, but it's from Shonda. So I'm taking it. It's mine now.
Yeah.
You can work it because it's your name.
Yeah, it would be weird if Shonda did it or if I did it. Yeah. So it's good. It's good on you, Michelle.
So ladies, we're gonna wrap it up here, but it's been so much fun having you two on and coming on the show.
Oh, we're not rapping?
Well, I don't know. Were you beatboxing there? What's happening? You got the hat on, like break it down.
Just dab.
Don't dab. Michelle, don't dab.
I think she already did.
Every time I try to tell my friends are cool, then somebody dabs, and then my kids are like, okay, Mom.
I know, it's so uncool. It's like, once the parents do something that's cool or trending, forget it. It's
done. Okay. It's not cool. We're going to let you wrap up, Jennifer, because we'll just keep.
I know you two will. Okay.
Sorry.
So tell everybody where they can find you all, and y'all just kind of give some, because I know you'll have closing statements, which I realized yesterday on the podcast. At least June does. Yes. Michelle, you need to work on yours. But why don't you each close us out with where to find Laugh Support Podcast and where people can find you?
Okay, so Laugh Support Podcast, you can find a little bit of anywhere that you listen to a podcast. We are also on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV, which is pretty cool. And then we also are on YouTube. Michelle, I'm doing this. Michelle, stop. Mom.
Tell them about Amazon and tell them about Apple. Tell them about Spotify.
She
Go
never
ahead,
lets
June.
me.
Go ahead.
She never lets me do anything
Tell
on
them
my
about
own.
we're in Ghana and India. Tell her that too.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we're international. We're super cool.
That's right.
We're in Ghana, and we're in India, and we're in Canada and Alabama. So it's super cool. We're all over the world.
Yep.
And but you can catch us and YouTube if you like to watch, because it's really fun to watch the episodes too, because comedians are, they're also like visual.
They are
funny too. So you kind of got to watch that.
Yeah,
and then
don't forget, June.
Michelle, you just finished this. I'm done. Forget it.
Maya,
I'm gonna just interrupt you.
Y'all get along now.
Don't forget, June, that if people want to hire the Strawberry Blonde comedy tour, they can do that too, and they just have to contact June and fly us out, and we're there. So,
Yep.
Wow,
So,
that's
ahead,
all they
June,
got to
finish
do.
up.
That's all they got to do.
That's it. It's that easy.
It's
Jesus
that
and
easy to
Junebug
get
loves
done.
you.
Yes, and my closer is always Jesus and Junebug loves you. Michelle, you're doing yours. You're doing yours today. Go ahead.
Go higher.
Do your closer.
I don't.
She doesn't remember it. We're gonna have
Hugs
to put
and
it on a card.
loves.
Tattoo it on her.
Lil Michelle and the Messiah want you to take it higher. Do it.
And
Do
then
it.
you have to do that.
Cookies are. So got to get the cook. No, okay. The blessing.
It was a brilliant closer. She refuses to do it. I don't know how we work together. This may
got to create her own.
This may have just broke our podcast.
It's
This may have just broke it, Jennifer. We may be done. This may be it. This may be the last time you ever see Michelle and June together.
I'm going to go and be on the Real Housewives of the Quarantine. That's what I'm going to do now.
I think
I'm going to go
idea.
and hang out with Joan Peterson.
Oh,
and I'm going to go eat some bonus fries. That's what's happening.
That is what I think you should do. Well, ladies, I know you each have websites. June Colson Comedy, I believe. And then Michele VanDusen. No, yours is like Laugh. What is yours? It's Laugh something.
Michele'sComedy.com.
Michelle's Comedy with one L.com.
Mm-hmm. That's
All right. Well, I'll put those links in the show. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming on today. And let's do this again. Oh, look, one last comment. We got to close on it. Michele'sComedy.com. And thank you, Michelle, for putting that in there. You're also on the show and comedy. Okay. All right, ladies. It's always a great time. And thanks for coming on. And we'll have to do this again soon. Bye.
You're really good. Bye.